Hi, welcome to Sparkflows. My name is Sunil Sharma and I am one of the founders of Sparkflows. This will be a quick demo of the Sparkflows product end to end. So, what is Sparkflows? Sparkflows is a visual big data application development platform to build end to end data pipelines, also known as workflows. These workflows help you derive insights out of your data and present them into dashboards of your choice. Sparkflow's team has created an abstract layer for business analysts and users to easily analyze and process their data, leveraging highly configurable building blocks that come prepackaged in the product. Sparkflows allows you to do self-serve prep, cleaning, and blending of your of your large data sets. It also allows you to do streaming and batch analytics, leveraging configurable machine learning models. Creating an abstract layer on top of ETL and ML has enabled Sparkflows users to build use cases at least 10 times faster and way cheaper, reducing the overall time to value and total cost of ownership drastically. In this quick demo, we'll look at various aspects of building end-to-end data pipelines. We'll look at defining data sources, look at 100 plus ETL and machine learning building blocks that we have in the product. We'll also look at building and executing workflows and analyzing results of those thereafter. So with that, let's jump into the demo. You are right now looking at the home login screen of Sparkflows. I'm going to sign in as an admin. It will take me to the home page of Sparkflows. On this page, you can see various aspects about the application and the jobs and workflows that have been created or have been executed. You can see we have 74 workflows, end-to-end data pipelines that have been defined. We have 107 building blocks right now that you can easily drag and drop into your workflows, making them part of your data pipeline. We have 33 different data sources that have been defined. We have 40 workflows that have recently executed. Here you can see some more details around workflow executions by the day. You can see last workflows that were executed. You can look at some of the latest data sets that were created. A data set is nothing but a pointer to an existing data source. Some of the workflows that were recently created. So with that, let's look at the top of the home page, which is datasets, which is all the datasets that have been defined in Sparkflows, which point to an actual physical data source. The workflows that have been defined and executed, and we'll go into how you can easily drag and drop building blocks to build workflows. Nodes is a listing of all the different building blocks and more details around those. Data browsers, it can take you to your data sources sitting in Hive and HDFS. Workflow executions shows you all the workflows that have been previously executed. And the admin tab, it takes you to various aspects of defining users, groups, and roles, and also configuring applications around running them onto a Databricks cluster and whatnot. So with that, let me go into the datasets tab right here. So here you can see various data sets already existing. It's pretty straightforward. I'm going to open one. Let me open, let's just say, transaction data set. So here you can see in this particular data set, there is a listing of the top rows in the data set. These are the various columns. And when you create a pointer to the data set, so in this case, the data set is transaction CSV sitting in my data folder. It infers the schema on the fly. It lets you update the format if you want to, let's say, apply a different format for the date or different format for a certain ID and whatnot. You can easily define that format here. It also gives you the ML type that will be used for this particular, let's say, this particular column during processing. You can easily update this as well. So with that, let's look into the data sets. Let me do this, try to so this is as simply as you define a data set, you give the path to the data source, and when you say update, it will present some top rows and also input the schema. So this is as simply as it's done. You save it. Now this data set will be available for you within your workflow. You can also define a data set from scratch using JSON format. I'm not going to go into this at this time, but this is certainly possible. You can view the JSON for any data set as well. So when you create a data set, this is the JSON file it defines for you behind the scenes. You can easily copy paste and export and import JSON files for data sets as well. Let's jump into the workflow tab. So here you can see that you can define a workflow from scratch using create workflow, which is a drag and drop canvas. You can also create a workflow using a JSON file. Like I just talked about, you can import a JSON file, or you can copy paste a JSON file here to define a workflow. Let me look into one of the existing workflows. So let's look at this top workflow. Click on edit. So here it's showing me the various steps that have been defined in this workflow to take your data set. So you can double click and look at all the different data sources that are available to me. So in this case, I had selected general payment, and I'm taking this data set through various steps. So I'm doing a column filter. So I'm selecting two of the columns, which these two columns, the total amount and the date, and I'm going to take these columns to the next step. I'm doing a field splitter wherein I'm trying to split the date field into three columns. So the schema, so let me go back here. The input schema here had two columns because these are the two columns I had filtered. Now for the next step, because I splitted the date field into three columns, so I have five columns in my input, and that's going to go into the next step. In the SQL here, we have three different building blocks for SQL, Python, and Scala, wherein you can easily embed custom code that you want to execute. So this is the SQL code, and from here, once this code gets executed, it can print some rows. It can also create a graph for me. I can certainly save this workflow. Let me save JSON. So when I do this, let's say right here, as part of this save JSON, I'm going to give it path data payment workflow.json. So this step will create a new JSON file in my data folder. I'm going to save this workflow. I'm going to hit execute. When I hit execute, it's going to fire a job, Spark Summit job, to my Apache Spark cluster. Execute. So here you will see in real time that the workflow is getting executed. The first step, which is the dataset structured, the column filter, the field splitter. So if you see column filter, the input schema had various columns that came in, but the output schema only has two columns. Similarly, field splitter, input schema had two columns, but the output schema has five columns because the date field got split. Similarly, there's a SQL node that's getting executed. So here you will see that finally it did the job and it executed the workflow. It has printed the results from that workflow. It also presented, let me change the line format. It also presented the amount for various months in a graph format. And there are various other visualizations that we have available in the product. Let me jump into the workflow executions tab. So here you can see all the different workflows that have been executed in the past. So it saves the results, so you can easily come back and compare the results from the same workflow executions at various point of times, and you can compare machine learning models as well. With that, let me jump into another workflow. So let's look at this jet trail workflow. This is slightly more complex workflow with various steps. Here you will see that we have two different data sources that we are starting with, and we are taking them through a bunch of steps for date time extract, SQL, string indexer, vector assembler, GBT regressions. At this point of time, we are splitting the data and we are sending it for prediction, and then we are doing some SQL and finally saving the results in a Parquet format. So you can see very easily you can drag and drop building blocks from the left. So let me do this. Let me go into create workflow, and you will see that we have various building blocks here, and like I said earlier, we have close to 107 at this point of time, which are available out of the box in the product that you can easily drag and drop onto your canvas and make them part of your workflow. Across machine learning, we have various regression algorithms, linear, GBT, similarly classification. We have feature transformers, string indexer like we looked at in the one of the workflows, normalizer, IDF, TF, feature selection. So we have a large number of building blocks that you can easily drag and drop into your workflow. Let me data set. So everything starts with a data set. As soon as you have a data set, you can start to connect other building blocks to it, save the workflow, and when you hit execute, it will fire a job onto your Spark cluster. In the admin tab, you can easily define users, groups, and roles, and in config, it gives you a bunch of options for changing the port numbers or defining where exactly your job will be fired when you execute it. So with that, that was a very quick, super high level demo of the product. I'm going to log out and we'll see you in the next demo. Thank you so much.